Haters to Rumble Channel 2 please. All haters to Rumble Channel 2 please. For haters of Rick Walker, Sanctuary is available in the chat on Rumble Channel 2. Your safe space is on Rumble Channel 2. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live. From the Maverick News Network, World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to Maverick News. Tonight is the night many of you have been waiting for. PEACEMAN is with us. He returns. The storm sort of delayed him, but it can't stop him from sharing the truth. Not rain, nor sleet, nor hail, nor an internet glitch. PEACEMAN is back. He is going to share with us more truth and expose deceivers who have been seeking to dupe us and share information that is critical to the survival of our country. In addition to that, we see that there is some sort of a mass incident at a shopping mall in Michigan. Dragon has the details on that. He'll be joining us very soon in the broadcast to dig into that stuff. Plus, Donald Trump, if we have time, I don't know if it's worth it. No, it's probably worth it. He's over in Scotland. There are protests really in many major cities there tonight because of his presence there, all to play a round of golf at his golf course, which of course he is taking time to promote. And then there's all the weird stuff he's posting on social media. And I have that plus a whole lot more. And Gatorade. This is stuff you're not going to hear anyplace else. You think the ostriches are the key to saving humanity? You know nothing about the gators. Ostriches have nothing on gators. And I'll explain why. And I'll explain why we have to come together and unite, put our differences aside to save the gators, to free them from alligator Alcatraz. I'll be back on the other side of this with PEACEMAN and truth.
Greetings brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
We're back. And last night, I know that we seemed to sort of jump on to an off-ramp and start taking a little bit of a different road because I stopped pulling punches and I'm inclined to continue down that road because the fate of our country is at hand. And to help us understand where we are along that journey, PEACEMAN returns. Dana Lee Melfi, most of you know him as PEACEMAN, stood for 25 days at the Freedom Convoy protest a few years ago in Ottawa, the biggest protest of its kind ever in Canadian history. All for many, a protest to protest vaccine mandates, lockdowns, mandatory thingies in the arm. But for others, it was a moment of political opportunism, as has been coming to light. Separatists, in particular, exploiting the convoy for their own purposes, their own devices, and we've seen U.S. influence up here, big MAGA money coming up here to the Great White North, all in an effort to divide us and turn, if not one province, maybe multiple provinces, or maybe the whole darn country into the 51st state. It's a very real threat. That's part of what is at the heart of what we're going to talk about tonight with PEACEMAN, but it really is all about deception, political theater. And PEACEMAN, you have the receipts on much of this. You have the evidence. So tonight, I guess we should begin our journey maybe with an ongoing explanation of where we stopped the other night, because we were cut off because of a storm and your internet connection got broken. But what is Fight Club? This is like a secret online group that was put together.
Yeah, well, I was invited to this Signal chat that is hosted by Eva and Keith of
Eva Chippy
JCCF.
Wilson of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. This is a legal activist organization which gets some of its funding from U.S. sources, by the way, which is very interesting. Has been Keith Wilson, very supportive and even active in promoting separatism, as we have seen, and was front and center. They put themselves right out in front and sort of hand selected the leaders of the convoy. So just to explain to people who those two people are, they are lawyers and they are at the center of much of what went on logistically and at the very heart of the Freedom Convoy, which remains to this day sort of a pivotal milestone event in Canadian history and certainly in the politics of the country. So I throw it back to you.
What's important to remember here is they're not just lawyers for Freedom Corp or doing that. They were also the only voices at the EA inquiry for the citizens. But
the Emergencies Act inquiry, which was the mandatory review of Justin Trudeau's use of the Emergencies Act after invoking it.
Yes, and during that, this was the reason for the room, I was told. That's why that's important.
The signal room online, the secret, as you say, clandestine was the word you used with me. The secret clandestine, which that's actually their word, clandestine online group.
That is their word. And it is you see, it's right there in the heading. And I didn't see this heading until after I was invited. Once I was invited, I got in, and one of the very first messages I seen was, "This is Fight Club." And to me, I know all about Fight Club. And I'm sure everybody else knows what happens when you speak about Fight Club. This is not by chance or anything else. This is by design. Okay? There were very rich people involved in all of this, in propping these people up as the voices. And once they created the Freedom Corp on the 30th of January, what's important to remember is now they're directors of a corporation. And oh, you almost had it there.
Oh, I can let it roll.
Yeah, when when they show, it says Fight Club right after this, right there. And so when I got in there and it said Fight Club, I start listening to what they're doing, but it's really just propaganda room. It was all about propaganda. And one of the first things was that there was going to be a Zoom meeting. And Eva was going to be the host of the Zoom meeting with Bathsheba.
And who's
These
Bathsheba?
people,
Who's Bathsheba?
she is another lawyer that works with them.
Okay.
And if you look at, once we look at a document later on, we'll show you that she wasn't just any lawyer. She was the one that was kind of orchestrating the group. So
And you can
this
see on
group,
the screen there, folks. Also, it says, and remember the first rule of Fight Club, which is, Dana, you don't talk about Fight Club.
no, because bad things happen to you. And trust
If you
me,
do.
I know. So I stayed in the room because I have been asked
Can I stop for
to
just a
help
moment,
people.
too, before we move on? Down here, Derek Smith, who we know and has been very friendly over here, and friendly with me. Seems like a nice guy, but he says here, first rule of Fight Club, is it the same as Project Mayhem? Are you familiar with Project Mayhem? What's that?
They actually, I do believe they go on to talk about that a little bit in the room. I am not
Not
privy to
familiar with the
what
details
Project
on that one?
Mayhem is.
Okay. I
No.
mean, that's an interesting name. Mayhem. That's like
Mhm.
chaos.
Well,
So,
actually, that's very important, interesting name. All of these things, if you notice the beginning, clandestine, narrative destroyers, Fight Club, like these are names that they put out there, and they want you to know that they are in control. Okay. So, what this room was supposed to be for, that was described to me, was that it was to help bring attention to the Emergencies Act inquiry. And I was all in on doing that, of course, right? But when you're in the room, like I have paperwork that I wanted to share and talk about, and it would have been very important at the time. But this wasn't their focus. Their focus was on two people. Two people. The
and those two
whole thing
people
was about two
are or were and continue to be who?
Tamara Lynch and Chris Barber.
Right.
And in the video, you will see that that's even this first meeting that they had, Zoom meeting, that was the focus. Let's prop them up. Let's make them somebody. Let's do this. And, but they were really silencing other people at that same time. And they were labeling people like Chad Eros and stuff insane and making up really saying, "Oh, he attacked all of us," and they all say, "Well, yeah, he attacked all of us." Well, once you get a group saying that, that's in the spotlight, um, there's no way to fight it. There's no way.
So,
Okay.
the reason they were propping up these two people was why? Because they were trying to create heroes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And uh, just think about the help that they had. How much advertising it took for Jonas Awards and different shows, and you'll see that they only interview each other. And you should really show the list of the people, because this is important as we speak, to understand the very important people in Canada that were in the room.
Well,
These
you
were
can see the
people with
names here. When you
over
say the
five.
list, and we're not talking about the Epstein list, but this is maybe even juicier. Uh, when you say the
Yeah,
list, is this the
right
list that
there.
we're seeing
Yeah.
on the screen here, right here?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Okay.
So, and you have to remember there's different layers to this, by the way. Eva Chipiuk and Keith Wilson were lawyers for JCCF at the time. Okay. Eva is no longer a JCCF lawyer.
Okay.
Uh, and they have codes that they have to go by. And Lynch and Barber had court ordered conditions not to be communicating or planning anything with uh, previous organizers
Yeah.
and specifically named organizers.
Right, because they're
But
out on
as you go,
bail and they have conditions on their release. The conditions are not to communicate or be in the presence of certain people, and that would include each other. There were some exemptions to that. I know something to do with if they're in the presence of their lawyers in a room, but it has to be under certain circumstances. I know that Tamara got into trouble because she went to a fundraiser at one point where she was rearrested, as I recall, because she was in the presence of someone that she wasn't supposed to be, or so they said, and then they arrest. So that was a breach of conditions. And you're saying that this may have constituted a situation like that as well, which is why we see in the video they're saying, "I see we are in the presence of counsel," but you're saying that that
yes, but
isn't
remember,
enough.
no, and I've talked to other lawyers about this, by the way, to just make sure that I was correct. I'm not a lawyer, so um, the breach and the unethical parts of this are because um, they the lawyers cannot be present 24 hours in this live chat.
Yeah.
And also, Eva and Keith and the other lawyers were supposed to be focused. We, as Canadians, thought that they were focused on the EA, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
On the inquiry.
Yeah.
But you can see in this room, and this room goes on for 2 months, okay? And they're constantly in there every day. And I don't know how Eva got any work done other than propaganda creating. That was her part of the job.
And so what we're
And
seeing here then, and first of all, let me just make it clear that just because people are in here or their names appear on the screen, it doesn't mean that they are doing anything illegal. However, this does show that there is a network that was put together, a network of people to create an information campaign that Peaceman is like showing us here, which was coordinated to create not to tell the story, but to tell a story, which is different than necessarily telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They're telling a version of a story and making sure that everybody kind of remains on script, essentially.
that,
Is that fair?
that's exactly fair. And I see one very important thing in the chat, and that's what did I get from this convoy?
Mm.
Well, I'll tell you, we're going to answer that later on. We're
Yeah,
going to answer that, but it's not what I wanted. It
yeah.
is absolutely not what I wanted. So, nanny of many, I'll get to you. Okay.
And so
So
what we're seeing here
this,
too is a lot of people who have been presented to the public as independent journalists, um, alternative media, right? Who are supposed to be these impartial. You can trust us. We're going to tell you the truth. Don't listen to the mainstream media anymore. All tell you is lies. Therefore, you should listen to me because I'm an independent truth teller. And in reality, what we're seeing in this room is they have put together a network of influencers, not journalists, who are there to spin a narrative, and they're getting their talking points in this group.
don't forget, there is mainstream media journalists
Mhm.
in this list.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to go through the list here.
Okay.
And remember how influential Freedom Fighters Canada was at the time.
Yeah.
Now you'll see that it's defunct. But they raised a lot of money to get Bethann Nodwell to go over and speak to Christine Anderson.
the
This is
European
all
Union
very
politician who became very prominent, particularly in Canada, popular within the freedom movement and promoted here and brought to Canada a couple of times now, I believe, right? For speaking
oh yeah,
engagements and, big, big events and convention centers. So yeah, very,
$300 a seat.
yeah, yeah, big money
And
involved here.
then you have the street level actors and like Daisy.
Chris Stacy,
All
yeah.
you see is what I call shock video all the
Mhm.
time. All the time. It's created shock video. And they're very, very uh, coordinated in helping each other, okay? Because
Uh-huh.
they're constantly talking. This room didn't end after the AAA inquiry.
Mhm.
And even Andrew Lawton is now an MP, so we can say anything we want and question him because he now works for us. Okay,
Mhm.
he used to just be a reporter and a writer.
Well,
Well, now he works
although
for us, and
if
he
you
has to
look at
answer.
his involvement in journalism and his uh, presence or his involvement with True North, which was a media outlet that was basically a conservative, has always been a conservative. Now I think they call it Juno News. That's a conservative funded media outlet. It always has been, and that's a fact. You can go and
Hmm.
find the information on that online. So again, not impartial. That is a conservative funded media outlet. It is not completely unbiased. They're giving you a perspective. But now it's gone beyond that. And as you can see from what PEACEMAN is showing us here, and remember, PEACEMAN is in the group. They're bringing him in because you also had an online following. You are also seen as a social media influencer. And so they wanted you to be part of this group. They brought you in, and that's why you're here tonight, because you see what has been really going on. This has not been just organic. We are being told a story, not the story. And I and it's this is being used as a vehicle to
Well,
promote particular political motives or agendas.
and I'm seeing such comments like I'm disappointed you're whistleblowing on peaceful protesters that were in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me, I was the peaceful protester. I didn't see any of these people on the street. Okay, they were in
Mhm.
hotels speaking to police and to government officials and everyone else. They weren't very peaceful when I went into the room and I heard them, for an example, when the Emergencies Act inquiry came on, there were several people that were testifying,
Mhm.
like James Bowder. And during the testimony, you could see uh, Chris Barber saying, "Poke my eyes out with a fork," you know, and
Mhm.
different things like this. And then they start doing their group attacks on people and pushing them out.
Well, indeed, because
And it's not just
we
them.
yeah, yeah. We've seen that
It's not just them. They
if
have
you criticize, or if,
millionaire backers.
yeah, or if you're seen as any kind of an opposition, yeah, they do have, and they're here on a fairly regular basis,
Are
trying
are
to
you kidding me?
to shut things down.
Look at this
Yeah.
comment. Why 5 years later are you bringing this up? Well, I'm sorry, but in 2022, right as this happened, I started speaking openly. My
Mhm.
website is transparent on all of it. I
Mhm.
share everything. I've tried to create civil discussion, but you can't speak against the heroes or
Right.
these corporations, lawyer firms
Yeah.
that stepped in.
Yeah, because it's the sacred convoy. They need the convoy because it's been all about optics all the way along. And again, not and what because what they've done is they've exploited the convoy. They hijacked the
I
convoy.
was all about the convoy. I really was. I love to see Canadians being unafraid, unmasked, and coming out of their homes. And
Yeah.
that's why I went.
Yeah. Yep. Because you were there for the specific purpose of protesting the mandates, the lockdowns, the
I'll
government
just add,
approach to the pandemic.
I did not go to Ottawa to meet new friends, make a new family, or anything. I was very focused on holding the accountability.
Mhm.
I will get into it later, but I specifically stood in front of cameras um, to make sure that I could get that footage later on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, what I wanted to prove from what I seen from my own eyes was exactly um, uh, what you didn't see. The police beating on people. You know, it was
Mhm.
really, 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 really disgusting. It really was. I
Yeah.
wanted to show you something here. Uh, there it is. Okay. So, uh, it's this one. No, I'll pull it up in a second. So the it was really disgusting to see how it was changing from what it was supposed to be, you
Mhm.
know, and it's hard to describe because of the intricacies that have happened throughout this whole thing. It's just
Sure.
it's been
And
crazy, you know.
and the reason it was changing, as you've kind of indicated to me, is because there were people there with political motives, and in particular, the driving force behind much of this was the separatist movement and or groups that really do want to destabilize the government. That's what's been going on.
Absolutely. So the police didn't just do everything on their own. They had help from inside. And one of the things I want to prove is that there is no way the officers did not know or ought to know the orders were given and actions taken were unconstitutional. And you know, one thing I seen from from uh, Freedom Corporation was a promise to hold accountability. It's still written on their Facebook page. Well, they have not done any LCEA complaints, OPS, none. They didn't. Their lawyers didn't request the video from the publicly owned cameras for the court cases. That right there showed me that there was something very wrong. And remember, I went into contract with the Justice Center of Constitutional Freedoms, and they broke their contract just before I went to trial.
Right, because they decided to only represent certain people, and those people have been the people that have pushed forward and helped them stay on point with their narrative. And that narrative is what was presented in part during, some of these clandestine fight club meetings that you're telling us about. And in particular, here's this PowerPoint presentation that was given by which lawyers that were involved with this piece, man?
Okay, so as soon as you went into the group, there in Signal you can share files, videos, all this stuff.
Mhm.
These files that we're looking at were shared by Eva Chipiuk.
Okay.
And there's even a document control on both of the files that show this. Okay. And it's
Mhm.
dated. And the date is within the parameters of her own um, clients'
Mhm.
conditions. So there's two main files. This is uh, a Word document, and then there's the PowerPoint.
Yeah. And
And the word
so
stakeholder engagement
mhm.
is very, very interesting because what does the World Economic Forum love to use? The words stakeholder engagement.
Yeah, I mean, that in itself isn't really proof of anything. But
No,
what we're seeing here is, again, this is the exercise that they went through to create their narrative. And as we scroll through and we look at the various slides, we look at the purpose of this. It says to provide a baseline of consistent narrative for horizontal human sourced information, HINFO, stakeholder engagement. And this was all laid out just before the Public Order Emergency Commission inquiry reviewing the use of the Emergencies Act, which we carried live front to back, top to bottom, bumper to bumper coverage on that over many, many, many days, so that we could bring people what we thought was the truth. Both sides do engage in going over material with witnesses prior to any kind of a legal case. But the question here is, this is so extensive, and what we're seeing in this presentation is such that you have to sit there and say, have they crossed a line? Because what the lawyers are not allowed to do is tell people to lie. If they do that, that crosses a line. It's okay for them to coach a witness prior to testifying under oath, to help them stay focused with their information so that they can tell the truth and tell their story in an effective way so that they can help the court understand what the truth is. But it's something else again to, I guess, create a story. So now you're maybe not even a legal thing, but it's an ethical thing. And as you can see here, they are. This goes beyond just telling people, helping a witness stay on subject and stay focused. This is a strategy for narrative spinning. This was, I guess, was this a group session that was held to help multiple people all at once in a Zoom meeting collaboratively work together to understand and engage in this strategy? Are you there, PEACEMAN?
exactly. It is a strategy, and if the public could grasp the amount of documents that they were sharing and how to control people, like the next page, this is what they think of you. Click that one.
Mm-hmm.
Rights and Freedoms Movement, and they call you ordinary Canadians. They are external, okay, and they have external people. And executive government is within their circle. If you see that, okay, this is the way they think about how they're going to control everything. These are documents they made.
And so again, the real point, I think, just the simple point that is perhaps most important for people to take away from this is what we've been engaged in, what we've been, presented with, has not been some organic movement of just grassroots people just rising to an occasion to push back against government mandates. This is a coordinated information campaign with big money behind it.
It is to mold what we're seeing now, 4 years later. Now we see this huge separatism. I'm a proud Canadian. I don't want my country, and I will speak up against anybody that wants to separate my country.
Yeah.
And this is what they're trying to do. And you can see now that their fame and their fortune is being put into not fighting for your rights and freedoms, but for separation.
Yeah.
Even on the heroes' social media, you see this.
Yeah.
But you're not allowed to say anything. No, you're a bad person if you say something.
Yeah, and the people trying to silence people like yourself and even me are the same ones who sit there and scream and complain and say, too much censorship. We need more freedom. And yet they are the most aggressive about shutting people down that they don't agree with, or someone says something they don't like, and they'll throw the mob at you.
There's a lot of influencers and shows out there highlighting things that went on. Um, I'm just going to get to a certain picture. Okay, you see this? This is not to brag, but this is to show you an example. I was the most photographed and used individual during the time with media around the world. But as soon as the protest was broken up, I I was asked by all these groups to help because of this, but because I wasn't on board with listening to Tamara Leach read off demands to our country as a corporation,
Yeah.
and I spoke out against it, my voice is mute. They have all blocked me. They will not let me on their shows or anything. There's only a few people that have the balls to try it.
Well, that's why you're here, because we're not beholden to anyone. And I said from the beginning, when we resurrected this news platform, which was in existence long before any of this took place, and then it was shut down because this platform was created in the earliest days of YouTube originally, and it just wasn't. It was so early, so young that the platform wasn't viable. But when the Freedom Convoy was reignited, I said to Brendan, who is here and helped me get things kickstarted again, I said, it doesn't matter what we see, if it's the government or people on the other side, if it's an individual, whatever it is, we're just here to try and bring people the truth. And if somebody does something bad here, we're going to let people know that. And if somebody does something bad over there, we're going to let people know that. And the same with anything that's good that happens as well. And so here we are, all this time later, Freedom Convoy, the sacred convoy, still at the center of all this political turmoil that we're having in the country right now. And we've got you here, Peaceman, to bring the receipts and show what you've actually uncovered, because they brought you into the fold. They showed you what was really going on as they tried to really, I guess, even take advantage of your position and your prominence, your profile on social media.
It was an error of because they seen that I had over 500,000 people watching every day on the different platforms I was on. They thought that they could coerce and bribe and all these things with me. And I'm sorry, I'm not that person. I just am not. And if I see wrongdoing, I call it out. So it was like when the Tupac thing happened. Up until that point, I had no haters. I had
And
none.
I
But
may
I
stop for just
spoke
a moment
out
to
against
explain.
it.
The Tupac thing
Yeah.
was a church in Ottawa was sort of leased, although there was a dispute over payment, but it was leased by a group that sort of turned things into a circus there. It was not really clear what the motive was, but they were associated with the freedom movement at the time. Everything got really weird. There were protests and conflicts over there, and they acted like a bunch of crazy circus people or something. It was just stupid and crazy and, frankly, at times insane. Uh, it was very strange.
Yeah. So when I was, this is going to come back to nano of many. When I was in Ottawa, I not only noticed what was happening with the takeover, I call it the takeover, okay? Because they actually tell you that in a video that they took over. But I wanted to try to hold accountability to the police.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this picture here is what was used in the EA of a camera that's downtown on Wellington Street.
Mhm.
I did all the paperwork. Like you said, I have the receipts. There's the paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the letters to RCMP, to the city of Ottawa,
Yeah.
and asking for this footage. So
Because yeah,
that's
and
what I
I mean,
wanted
you're
to get
upset.
out of this.
You're upset because a lot of people arrested that you think were arrested unlawfully. You know, a lot of things not handled properly on the government side too. So you're trying to hold those guys accountable as well.
And I did find out some really wild information that should be out there in the public. It's very important
Hmm.
that some of the arrests were not made by Ottawa Police Service.
Yeah.
They were actually made by RCMP, but
Yes.
in the disclosures and in the courts, that information is not there.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
not in
that's yeah.
Project Natterjack.
Yeah. Which Project Natterjack is an RCMP review of um, the police response and government response after kind of everything, after the dust sort of settled near the end. So they were reviewing everything. That's what Project Natterjack was. But so and we're going to bring you back, and we can dig into some of the stuff on the police side in more detail on another occasion. um
Yeah.
I'm sure you kind of want to do that, but I kind of want to stay kind of focused on the road that we're on at the moment, without getting into the nitty gritty of the documents and the arrests and the filings for freedom of information on those particular matters, because they're complex
Because
in and of
this
themselves.
trial of the century, the
Mhm.
longest mischief trial in history,
Yeah,
is going on. This is your news right now, Canada.
right, right.
And
That's
this
why
is
we're
very
talking about it.
important to that news.
It is so important, in fact, that the Wall Street Journal editorial board, I believe it was yesterday, yes, it was yesterday, published an op-ed saying, essentially that the government, like, what's the big deal? Why are you still focused on you're so focused on political dissent? Because what the Wall Street Journal editorial board is not aware of, or maybe they are, and they don't want to admit it, or maybe they're part of the problem. Maybe they're part of this psyop that was perpetrated on Canadians. Uh, is that it's the separatist movement that is at the core of much of this, and this political activism is present in these mischief charges, because it's all about the 51st state stuff. It's the tariff war. It's Trump. It's MAGA money. It's foreign political interference in our country. That's what this is about. It's about also big money and people with political aspirations, even within our own country, the Conservative Party. It's about Joseph Bourgault, who had political aspirations and was there campaigning, again, not necessarily doing anything illegal, but Chris Barber worked for the guy. He was there financing a lot of this stuff, paying for hotel rooms, ended up running for the Conservative Party leadership. We saw that the Conservatives went through a leadership change as a result of the convoy. So while the convoy itself didn't result in an overthrow of the government, it did result in something of some might even say, a political coup within the Conservative Party, because Aaron O'Toole, because of the convoy and the internal pressures and conflicts that the convoy created within the Conservative Party itself, Aaron O'Toole stepped aside as leader of the Conservative Party, the official opposition in Canada. And that paved the way for
Uh,
Pierre Poilievre to then, through the leadership convention, become the leader. But part of that convention involved people like Joseph Bourgault, Grant Abraham, who were cast aside by the party itself. I mean, that's inner workings of party politics, but these are the dynamics at play. There were many things going on at the same time. And I'm not saying that these particular politicians are separatists themselves, but you do have within the Conservative Party this strong separatist element, in particular from Western Canada, from the UCP, the United Conservative Party, the Alberta Prosperity Project, those separatist elements have really kind of taken control of the UCP, and they have their tentacles directly into the Conservative Party federally as well. These are the nuances, the gray areas, the things going on behind the scenes people are not aware of. That's largely what was at the center of the storm that came to Ottawa, and big oil money.
And one of the reasons why I'm on the show is because I have been making these posts like you see here, and all the links are there so that you can get the documents, and these are what he is showing you right now, okay? Plus a lot more, because we can't show everything on here. There's just so much, you know. So, and there's a question, um, what what was I arrested for? Well, that is that is a really good question. I'll tell you that much. Give me 1 second here. That the top paper is my arrest at the time. It does not even match the bottom one when I actually went to trial. They've changed wording, and they did this with a lot of people. But when you ask the lawyers, why does it say court order? And then when I went to court, it doesn't, the word court is gone. Well, they tried to say that it was because of the Ontario emergency. No, the only order that was in place was the EA. So these arrests were made under the Emergencies Act.
Yeah, I again, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of the charges, because that we could spend hours on each of these things. There's just, because it's all legal stuff, right? And we could talk for an hour about whether an arrest was lawful, not lawful, constitutional, unconstitutional, deep questions. We'll just spend 2 hours just discussing that without getting into the broader, aerial view of things, so people can understand the significance of all of this right now, which is that the country is facing an existential threat. We appear to be at war even with the United States, in terms of a trade war, with the ongoing narrative about 51st state. And it's not a pie in the sky thing. It's not something to be downplayed. Just yesterday, Rod Stewart at his concert making reference to the issue and coming out in support of Canada. And we see the social media influencers, who were in that group. Even just yesterday, I ran a little clip from this guy who is basically a traitor to Canada and is one of these influencers who keeps spinning the narrative that has evolved since then in order to keep it relevant. It's evolved to really that Canada should be taken over by the United States. This guy isn't pro Canada. He's there promoting Canada being taken over.
But I think that this is exactly why America needs to take over Canada. Not with a military ground invasion, not by stripping people out of their homes, but by an economic merger, or, I don't know, just simply 51st state. Because
so that is the new kind of warfare that's out there. That's exactly how Donald Trump wages war, is through economic warfare. He's treating us like the enemy, because to him, Canada has become the enemy, because he's a coward anyway. He won't stand up to actual bullies. He goes around the world picking fights with his friends and people who depend on him, like Canada.
My
But
friend,
that's,
they are
and
all
that's not a
cowards.
sidebar issue. That's really at the center of much of this. And guys like this who are clearly compromised.
There's a lot of cowards. What they do is when they're in place and these big groups are put together, they all block you at the same time, at the same day. If they don't like you, they discuss it in the room, and then you're blocked by everybody at the same time.
Yeah.
I can't show you that but I can tell you, and either you can take my word for it or you don't.
Yeah. And the ties to the separatist movements are very clear. The tentacles are very clear and actually fairly easy to follow as soon as you kind of clue in, right? Because you have, and you can please comment on this as we proceed here, but Tamara Lich, a known separatist, Wexit, Maverick Party. Tell us what you know about Tamara Lich and her ties to Canadian separatism.
Well, she's taken oaths to Wexit and the Maverick Party to separate this country. I wish I could show you the actual documentation.
Mm.
And I find it extremely weird that this person in 2021 was a high level separatist in two different groups that we know of, that we can document. And all that documentation is now scrubbed. Anything with her on it before 2022, even her personal life was scrubbed. Why is that? Okay. I don't scrub my life because you can look back on me to the beginning of the internet. You know, and her oath is to create a new nation, a new nation. So all of a sudden, 2021, she's saying, I want to create a new nation. 2022, there's pictures of her sewing a flag. Okay. Like, I literally, every time I see that picture, it makes me gag.
So she definitely, I mean, there's just so much documentation. Like, it's just a known fact that she had ties going back to separatism long before this particular convoy emerged. We saw that really there was a 2019 convoy that rolled into Ottawa prior to that was all about oil. It was all about the oil industry. The United We Roll convoy, which turned out to be something of a prelude or a trial run for the convoy that we got during the pandemic. The Freedom Convoy is what it ended up being. But then at the very heart of that, we saw big oil, separatism, JCCF, legal activist organization that also represents many companies in the oil industry. You're seeing Chris Barber, who gets thrust out into the front of this, had been and directly tied to Joseph Bourgault, the businessman who bankrolled much of this, not all of it, but much of it, paying for hotel rooms, covering a lot of the costs. He had aspirations and his design, his eyes set on becoming the leader of the Conservative Party at the time. So there he was, as you said to me the other day, as we were further discussing this in preparation for tonight's presentation, you said that basically Bourgault was there campaigning for the leadership of the Conservative Party while all this turmoil, all this chaos had been created on the streets of Ottawa.
And
currying
there's
favor
videos of
essentially
him
with the freedom groups and the freedom movement, soliciting their support and really buying favor by saying, hey, stay in this hotel over here, and I'm promoting this over there. And I can get into a little bit of his background as well. He's been on this program. We interviewed him at the time while he was pursuing the leadership of the party, and then of course the Conservatives ousted him, disqualified him. But I'll let you comment.
Yeah. I met him, shook his hand because I thought he was good at the time. But the very next day, I took a video of him saying that he moved in, and because of his excellent organizational skills, and he talks for 2 minutes about how he's so good at organizing, that he took over and he picked the people to put in front. He picked the lawyers. He picked all of this. So they were following the money. Though that guy was the one that was going to be paying, so he got to pick. Okay, and then they started Canadians for Truth, which,
Yeah.
if Canadians for Truth was truthful, they would have had me on their show like they said they were going to.
Mhm.
I can show you pictures of me at their private events. Okay,
Yeah.
but they didn't. They and we'll get back to Tamara on the screen. If you make a mission statement and you put it out there, do you live by it forever? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like this is to create an independent nation. You cannot dispute it. This is go look on the Wayback Machine, on the Maverick Party or Wexit, and you will find this information. This isn't stuff that I made up. This is your hero, that really, it just really makes me sick to see this picture of her sewing a flag, because they did so much. It's not just one thing, Rick, or
Mhm.
anybody out there. There's many coordinated efforts that happen.
Yeah.
And uh, quickly, for an example, I wore cameras on my head. Well, Eva was the first to contact me and
The
ask
lawyer.
me for that footage.
Yeah.
And I said no. She said, but it's to help Tamara. I said, what about everybody else? She hung up the phone.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
because
like, come on.
So yes, and I mean even with Mr. Bourgault, who I thought was nice fella, and ultimately what his politics might take him, I don't know, but I know where he's been, and he was associated with the Saskatchewan Party, which had some separatist leanings in it. And then there was the Saskatchewan United Party, which also had, in a more pronounced way, more separatist elements within the party, and certainly disruptive in that way. And then just the chaos in the streets at the Freedom Convoy as well. So there's a guy who's like seeking political power. Whether that would ultimately lead to separatism, that's another question. But certainly there's that power that is being sought, the political motive behind that, but it's the separatism that really was the most destabilizing element in all of this. And it was, as Rudy Bruce pointed out in the presentation, that he brought here, talking about Peter Turner, the union labor negotiator who offered his services to the organizers of the Freedom Convoy, saying, I will help you negotiate with the government, saying that it became very apparent to him that they really didn't go there looking for a solution. They went there to cause trouble, because what they really wanted in the end was a photo op. And they kind of thrust the people who went there unwittingly, the ordinary Canadians, out in front, and used them essentially as political cannon fodder for a photo op, and put them in harm's way while they were beaten in the streets by police, knowing full well that that was going to happen, and still encouraged them to stay until the very end, where all of that happened and the cameras came out and they got what they wanted. And we're going to get into that in a little bit more detail, but you have something up on the screen you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, and it goes along with what you were saying, actually, because lots of things happened before Canadians even reached Ottawa. We had the hate speech by our Prime Minister. We
Yeah.
had, on the 26th of January, I went to Ottawa, and at 11:30 at night, there was a giant F. Trudeau truck parked right in front of the Parliament buildings.
Yeah.
No police surrounding it, nobody checking the back of a 53-foot trailer, nothing. Then 2 days later, there's a helicopter over protected airspace with the exact same decals and expensive decal jobs on both of these items. Now, when I started speaking about this man's truck, I never spoke about the man. It was about the perception before anybody got there, what they were doing to change the perception of all other Canadians and people around the world. They used that truck in the House of Commons to say this is hateful rhetoric and everything else. Now, it's no secret, I do not like any of the vulgar material. I've never held one. I've never waved anything but a Canadian flag, no signs, no nothing, because that's what we're fighting for. You see this picture on the screen is because I didn't see any of these directors on the street. You know who I seen? All these people every day for 25 days. I hugged Ben, the 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 what do you call that? That held the flag up above everybody. The
Oh,
boom
the guy with the
truck,
crane.
boom
Yeah,
truck
yeah, the
Ben.
crane. Yeah.
I never even knew this big burly guy, but every morning I hugged him, and every night hugged him on the way out. We didn't know each other, but these are not the people that are being lifted up. It's the people that were in the hotels speaking to the police and on the phone with Brad Wall 25 times, but they didn't say anything. That was Chris Barber. It came out in the EA and in his trial. Why is he on the phone with Brad Wall 25 times? There's a video where he's asked when he was in downtown, Mr. Barber, if you were able to speak to one government representative, who would you pick? And he says Brad Wall. But the phone calls meant nothing, right? I'm sorry, but I do not fall for it at all, at all, at all.
Now, there's something else that I guess we should probably get to as the time ticks away here. Speaking of the photo op, the PR game, the efforts made to spin up a narrative here. This brings me to something that you made me aware of for the first time overnight, and that's because I happened to mention in passing the woman with the walker that the elderly woman. Can we talk about that, or do you need to talk about something else first?
Absolutely, we can talk about that. Let's bring that up.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is the woman in the picture there. That is, her name is what? Candace
Cyril.
Okay.
Candace Cyril, sorry. And Candace Cyril, I'll tell you, I seen her in Ottawa the day before the trampling of the horses for the first time. Never seen her before that, but she was trying to make a spectacle down where I was standing, right in front of me. And I seen this and I recorded it all, actually, but nobody's ever seen any of these recordings because I didn't want to profit or anything. I want to keep this as evidence. So the next day, just as I'm leaving it was around 6 o'clock in the evening, somebody runs up to me and says, Dana, PEACEMAN, this lady just got trampled by a horse. And you have the rest of the pictures. I only put this one up, but
Sure.
You could, as I speak, you can show the other things, okay?
Okay.
So I said,
well, in fact,
what?
You know what?
And
let's just pause there for a moment, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the video of the trampling so people can refresh their, so that we're thorough here, right? So this is ultimately what was shared. This is a version of it anyway that was shared with the public. This is what hit the airwaves, hit the internet. There it is there. Okay. Let's roll this. That's her there.
Right after that, the 49-year-old woman who uses a walker was run over by Toronto Police Service's horses that rolled through the crowd. Onlookers were heard yelling at police to stop.
Stand down! Oh my gosh! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Look what you did! Look what you did to her! Look what you did to her! Look what you did to her! You trampled on the lady who was inaccessible!
The video was posted to YouTube and watched 34,000 times. The woman has been interviewed by the Special Investigations Unit. They say she sustained serious injuries. Her family in social media posts said that that includes a broken collarbone. But she does not want to speak to media right now, according to her family. APTN isn't naming her.
Okay, so when I saw that, I was enraged. I was just fit to be tied. I was so upset and so angry that that would happen to that woman. I have to tell you. And I held on to that emotion for a long time until I started to see a pattern, which is social media influencers running into the middle of protests while rolling video, until I saw Rebel News putting cameras with bright lights into the faces of newsmakers as they walk into buildings, getting people upset and getting arrested over and over and over again. And then I said to myself, in the 30 some years that I've worked as a journalist, how many times have I been to protests? And of all those probably thousands of protests I've been to over the years, how many times did I end up being arrested or even get into any kind of like really serious altercation with anyone? And the answer was zero. Zero. And then I thought, I better start questioning a lot of what I've been looking at, because it seems like a lot of this might just be theater. And that's where the stuff you sent me overnight comes in, because I was questioning last night that incident, and I was still holding on to that emotion yesterday. And I said, decent people do not let an elderly woman with a walker sit up at the front of a protest where you know police are coming to lay hands on and exert force and possibly beat people with batons, or maybe worse, and we did see worse. You don't put the most vulnerable people right up in front. You protect those people. You say, you go back over there, you go to the hotel room, you post on social media, we'll take the beating in the street if that's where this is going to go. You don't put the most vulnerable person right up in front unless you're a complete jerk, or unless it's accidentally on purpose to get the photo op. So those are the possibilities, and you were there. And I didn't know this, PEACEMAN. I didn't know this until you sent me this material overnight. I am shocked and disappointed with what you are about to share with people here tonight. What's the real story behind the woman with the walker?
Okay. You know, there's no easy way to go about this. There's no. All I can do is tell you exactly what happened. That's all I can do. It's up to you to decide. And I can share something that has never been shared before. I did not even share it with Candace when she asked me afterwards. So I, for the first time, shared it with Rick tonight. So, when I was finishing my evening that evening, I was heading back to a hotel, and somebody comes and tells me that somebody was trampled by a horse. Now, I had never seen any of these other videos or anything else, and I already knew the truth because I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And just about 20 minutes after she was trampled and pulled out of the way, the police didn't arrest her. And by the way, there was no wrongdoing found by the police investigation. because what you've seen there was one video, but there's other videos that show people behind her and her thrusting herself in there. Okay. And there's video of it. I can show it to you. So as I'm walking to the hotel, 20 or so minutes later, I see Candace Cyril with her friend. That's the next picture. And they are on the side of the road speaking to a trucker just off of one of the streets there.
Is this the picture you're looking for? Or hang on.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
So they're on the side of the road and they see me walking by. And they're fine. They're talking. She's walking around. She doesn't have a walker with her, nothing. And I go and I buy a pizza and I come out 20 minutes again. And now they're following me and I catch it in my eye. They're following me a half a block back. And I get to the hotel. As I enter into the hotel, there's about 30 or 40 of these freedom reporters in the lobby of the hotel. And as I walk in, one of them comes up to me really loud in front of everybody and says, "Did you hear this lady got killed by a horse?" And I yelled back at him. I don't usually lose my cool, but I yelled at him in the lobby and I said, "She did not get killed. Why are you guys false reporting? You guys are liars." I said, "I just seen her." And I went, and in the lobby, there's some computer desks. And I didn't have a computer, so I went to sit down to go and look what was going on. 2 minutes after I sat down, Candace Cyril and her friend walk in the front door of the lobby. And they make a beeline straight for me, right in front of me. And her friend approaches me and says, "Dana, PEACEMAN, we need your help. This is the lady that got trampled. We need to get some information out." And my spidey senses were tingling right away because of the mannerisms. First of all, I have broken both my legs, my arms, 3/4 of my ribs, and I know what trauma is all about.
Hold on just a second. This is just a short time after the incident took place where the woman was supposedly trampled. And then you're telling me that she walked in the front door of the hotel?
Yes,
with her friend.
Actually, the hotel is 4 blocks away.
She walked 4 blocks to the hotel?
And not only that, she was standing and talking in the street with anybody that would listen to her until she seen me.
Okay, so
let's continue.
After she got trampled with the walker, she walks in the middle of winter in January 4 blocks and then walks into the hotel. Let me ask you this. This is all new information to me. Did these other social media influencers see this? They were there.
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to
get to the good part. I'm going to get to the good part.
Okay.
I put them in their place when I walked in the front of the hotel. And by the way, Chris Barber was standing right there at the lobby at the front door. He didn't go outside. He was standing inside. And I walked up and I shook his hand first. It was the first time I ever met him. So I shook his hand and I said, "Hey, we're doing good out there." And I walk away. And I come around the corner and all these media are there. And one of them, with the last name of Smith, says, "Did you hear about the woman that got trampled and killed?" And I blew up on him. And I go and I sit at the computer. Her friend comes up to me and says, "This is the woman that got trampled by the horse." And I said, "Well, first of all, sit down." And I kicked somebody out of a seat that was right in front of me. And I said, "Sit down." And I could see something. So I said, "So I want to ask you first, are you okay? Are you hurting right now?" "Oh, yeah, I'm hurting." "Okay, stand up." And she's like, "What?" They wanted all that media around while I was talking to her. Okay.
Yeah.
So I recognized this, and what I did was I said, "Stand up," and she stood up, and I said, "Come with me," and we walked straight into the elevators, and I brought her up to my room, and I
Right.
walk into my room, and I had a security guard in my room because of whatever. And I walk her into the room with her friend, and I explained to the security guard, I said, "Listen, I'm going to leave you with these two ladies. Make sure nobody comes in this door unless it's me. Lock it behind me." Okay. I walked. I didn't even talk to the two ladies, by the way. I could see she was not hurt. I'm sorry, but I could see that she was not hurt. And I know what acting looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did, I immediately walked out of the room and I dial 911. And I have a 22-minute conversation with 911 about how I do not believe this lady is hurt, but she's saying she is, so we have to get her help. And they said, "Well, how do you know she's not hurt?" And I said, "Well, she's complaining of a dislocated shoulder and holding her shoulder in this particular way." And I said to the lady on the phone, "I have two dislocated shoulders. And by the way, I don't talk about my disability very much, but that's one of them. I have two dislocated shoulders. Okay. And I deal with it. I wear a brace at night so that my shoulders don't dislocate in the middle of the night. So I'm very familiar with it. That's the point to that."
Okay.
So I have this discussion with 911. They say, "Okay, we're gonna send an ambulance. We're gonna send the paramedics." I said, "Okay, do not stop at the front desk. There's a ton of reporters downstairs. Come in the door, go around the corner, come in the elevator." And that's exactly what they did. And they came up, and I walked in the door just before they got there. So there was no pre-talking or whatever with these girls. I sit down and I take that picture with her. Does she look hurt in that picture? Is she crying? Is she in pain? No. Then I the paramedics come in and I step back and I took two videos while they were checking her.
Okay. I have those
And
videos
she
here.
didn't.
Yeah.
So this is just about an hour now. Remember, 20-minute walk, 20
Okay.
minute wait at
Let's.
the pizza,
Sure.
20 minutes,
I think
20 minutes on the phone.
this is part of the video that you sent, so I could review it. You may
Well,
not be able to hear the
there's
audio.
two orders.
Okay. Is this the one you want to see?
Hi. Dennis, do you have
That one or the other one?
Yeah, that's the first one. That's the first one. Yeah.
you said you may have some allergies? Do you have any allergies to any medication? Just penicillin? And you, I know you said you don't take anything for your
Pain? No.
no for your blood pressure, but do you take any prescription medication for anything else?
Okay, so you were there.
Okay.
No.
Let me comment on this video. What you
What's your
heard.
biggest
Okay.
complaint right now? Is it the shoulder?
Okay.
You heard her voice all broken and crackly. 2 minutes before, she was perfectly fine talking. Okay. Perfectly fine. Then they enter the room and she's crackling. She starts holding her belly. Now let's go to the next video because this is
The arm pain, the stomach pain,
where
the
Let me
they
just
actually
see where
start
we're at here.
inspecting her.
It's the shoulder right now.
Okay, we're gonna try and take a look at your shoulder. I'm just gonna go run my fingers along your neck and your back and over your shoulder and your collarbone and stuff like that. You tell me where the pain starts. And if we can't get this arm out of your sleeve and you're saying it's pretty severe, it's possible we just cut the sweater off, okay?
I'll get it off. Don't cut nothing.
All right.
Are you gonna take your glasses off?
Any pain in your neck at all, Candace? Pain running down your back at all?
Go up, 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 up.
Yeah? What about here?
Yeah, there's some in there.
Gotcha. Do you have any pain on this side?
Right now, this machine is gonna freaking explode my fingers if you don't stop it.
Nice
It's going
and
down right
slow.
now. If you relax your arm.
Some nice slow deep breaths and the blood pressure machine will stop shortly, okay? What if we go over here on this side, on the shoulder? Right there? Okay. Let me keep going. Do you have any pain in your arm? Your upper arm here?
You should have waited. Oh.
Do you have any pain in your upper arm, Candace?
Stop touching for a minute. Let the blood pressure cuff work.
She's more worried about the blood pressure cuff
Alright,
than
we'll have to try with the
the
blood pressure
injuries.
again later. Is it okay if we keep looking at your arm?
She had no problem hugging
I'm going to
me
do a quick manual. So it
very
won't go so
hard
bad for you.
just a minute before this.
Right now it's probably sky high.
That's why it's
Potentially.
probably going so high.
Okay, if we keep looking at your arm? Man's gonna take one on the other side. We'll get an accurate blood pressure.
Wow. So you were there.
I'll tell you something else.
Yeah.
There was another camera going in the room, but somebody stole that camera the next day. So now we get to the second video. So I'm going to tell you,
What a fucking
this is where I had to cut it off at a certain time because I don't want to infringe on her, you know, showing any too much about her body or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's not one bruise, and they did not want to take her to the hospital. They said, no, we're not, that we don't see anything wrong.
Uh-huh.
So show the second video.
Yeah, I had Facebook up there for a second. Hang on. Let me get, I got to find your video. Hang on. I don't want Facebook. I want this file. Okay. Video. Little confusing here. So you want the, I believe you want this one.
Yeah, there was only 2 videos from my phone.
This one?
We're just
yes, that one, yes.
This side feels good? Okay. Earlier you showed me the bottom of your stomach right over here. Is it okay if we lift your shirt up and look for some bruising and stuff?
And I think that's as far as it went there, PEACEMAN. Are you still there? Did we lose your feed?
No. No. Oh, no. That's all you got on that one?
I believe that's all that I have, yeah. I might have.
Okay, well, you can see that I was there for them disrobing her, okay? And them telling her, we can't find anything wrong. We can't take you to the hospital. We have other issues to deal with. And by the way, in the
so you have that on video, them telling her that?
I don't know if the words are on there. I can't say. But we also had in the EA where they said that ambulances couldn't make it to these places. That ambulance had no problem. Okay. And then there's, after she screamed and yelled and said, no, you have to take me, you have to take me. They didn't put anything on her shoulder. They didn't, you know, in the pictures that you see of her, her shoulder's all wrapped, and they said it's a broken collarbone. What doctor told you that? Because no doctor would tell you her medical situation. They knew this. They knew that it wouldn't be disclosed. It was only what comes from her mouth.
Yeah.
So then when they left with her, I didn't just stop there. I went down the elevator adjacent to theirs, and I went and took pictures of the ambulance with the ambulance number so that I could get the logs and request them and stuff if I needed to. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the way, when you're in these situations, you have to think like an investigator, because I'm not going to be used as a media outlet for people that are faking things. I don't like that at all. You're not going to use me, and you're not going to trick me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day, I get a call from Candace. Can I have those videos? Can I have the pictures? And I said no. And she said, well, I need them for court and everything else. And I said, I'm sorry. She immediately blocked me and had a whole bunch of other people block me because she knew from me looking at her, my mannerisms, that, that I wasn't falling for it. Okay.
Yeah.
So this big thing about this woman being trampled, I'm sorry, people. I didn't make it up. She was not hurt.
Wow. I have, think, a longer version of your video that maybe the portion you wanted to show us is in there. Let me just pull these down so that I get the right clip up, because I don't want to go to social media. I want to go to that.
And
right
do you
there.
know that for a year later, I was doing speeches and different things all over the place. And she was showing up at these places. But as soon as she seen me, it's that coward syndrome again. She just took off.
I think
You know?
this might be the section here.
Yeah, where they start to remove the sweater. Yeah.
Let's see if we can run some of that. It's paused here, I think, at the moment, but it's running.
Mm-hmm.
So
they take off her sweater. You'll see that she gives a whole bunch of moans and groans and things like this. But I'll tell you, I was with her just minutes prior to the before this, and there was nothing wrong.
Yeah, I know that there was I had trouble with your video because of the way it was shared over here.
Now, this woman went out and started getting donations right away from everybody. She's making speeches all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Where in any of her speeches does she say, I want to thank PEACEMAN for getting me an ambulance? And it's not because I'm not mentioning that because I want accolades. I'm mentioning it because why wouldn't she be telling the truthful story?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Photo op.
Exactly.
Photo op.
Exactly. And the day before the trampling, she was trying to do a photo op. You seen her face painted and all of that stuff, right? Before in the earlier video.
So this is the ambulance as it came.
As they were going to leave, yeah, they were putting her in the back.
Okay.
So there's your ambulance number.
Yeah, just
and
to prove
why
that
did
you're
the
there.
police in their investigation?
I can tell you too, folks, that when Dana sent me these videos, I dug into it to make sure that these are authentic, and I was able to verify when those videos were shot and that the files that he sent me were the original unedited files, raw files, not something that had been put through any kind of an editing program. I know because I'm a professional video producer. This is my
and I preserved them specifically for that reason. I never shared them with anybody else.
I was able to verify the time through metadata when that video was shot, the date and the time. So it's verified, like it's authentic video for sure. And you were there. So this is a firsthand eyewitness account. This is not hearsay. If this was a court of law and Dana was, or PEACEMAN was under oath, this would be admissible evidence in a court of law.
I'll testify. I will testify on many things.
This
Many
is a
things.
first-hand account. So that's the level of credibility that I can bring to this evidence tonight. And this disappoints me again, because it's another piece in the puzzle showing that we're being shown a story, that we're being presented a tale, that this
Rick, I
is
haven't shared
information
everything.
warfare. Yeah.
I'm going to disappoint you more. I really am. But I can't. There's some things that are going through process right now. And it's going to be very disappointing.
Yeah. And it has been a disappointing week, and I continue to be disappointed in so many people across the country. A lot of people that I thought were standing up for their country were actually there trying to tear the country down, continue to do so. We've seen even just in the past week, and this actually goes back to last April. You know, this article coming out, which clearly is related to a lot of even what we're talking about here tonight. If I can get it up on the screen right there. Trump officials discussed a $500 million Alberta independence loan. This coming from the delegation that went down to see the Trump administration to talk about Alberta becoming the 51st state or splitting away from Canada as an independent country, or an independent state of some kind. And then we have this audio that I was able to get a hold of this Dennis Modry from the Alberta Prosperity Project. All of this stuff tying together. Ran this just a couple of nights ago. I'll share it with you again here. Talking about that meeting with the Trump administration, the pledge of financial support. And here's what was said in this meeting with APP, or Alberta Prosperity Project, and Alberta Separatist supporters.
And so there's a couple of things I'd like to share with you that I didn't already. One of them was our trip to Washington on April the 22nd, when Jeff Barath and I met with senior U.S. administrative officials, just a couple steps away from the president himself. When we walked into the conference room, the first comment, just as we were sitting down, was, "We recognize and support Alberta becoming a sovereign nation." That was the first comment. And that right now, to your point, Peter, right now, Alberta 51 isn't on the table, but it could be at some point in the future. You're absolutely correct.
So there we're seeing the pledge of money, pledge of support. We also know from as much as people are upset about the information being leaked, we know that 60% of the donations from the GoFundMe came from the U.S. side, from U.S. sources. Big money. When has a protest in Canada ever generated the tens of millions of dollars that the Freedom Convoy did? I can't think of anything even remotely close that was a protest of that kind. You have to go to a fundraiser, something like the Terry Fox run across the country, to even reach those kinds of numbers. And certainly none of them ever pulled in money from the U.S. side like that did. And that in itself is suspect, or not so much suspect, but additional evidence that what we're dealing with here at the core of all this is a group of separatists who hijacked a convoy to break up the country, using unsuspecting innocent Canadians as political cannon fodder and thrusting them right out in front of harm's way in order to achieve their political objectives.
Things that were sort of interesting that we talked about was a $500 million transition loan that we would only draw down as.
Hang on, we lost it. Let me back that up. So I'll back it up.
One isn't on the table, but it could be at some point in the future. You're absolutely correct. Other things that were sort of interesting that we talked about was a $500 billion transition loan that we would only draw down as necessary as we work with the U.S. to transition from a province to a country. And the second thing was with respect to the U.S. currency, because we know what will happen to the U.S. dollar when Alberta leaves Canada. The dollar will sink even more than it is now. Now, in the circumstances of getting out of Canada, we get out from all federal regulation and taxation. So that means the purchase of goods and services becomes less as well. Ostensibly, your Canadian dollar, which is worth less, will still be able to buy because the price points will be lower. But the request that we made is for the U.S. to agree to take every Alberta citizen's Canadian dollar and have the bank exchange it for one U.S. dollar. So that's another thing.
So he's going to exchange every Canadian dollar for one U.S. dollar. Well, first of all, I wanted to get into the lies that he's telling there, but this is about him now meeting with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith.
So we made some specific requests to the U.S., but it started with a question that came to us. Would it be helpful if the President or the Secretary of State were to say anything about Alberta sovereignty? And the response was, well, it would be if what you said were two things. Number one, that you talked about the benefit to Albertans as a result of Alberta sovereignty. And number two, at the time of a successful referendum, you acknowledge Alberta sovereignty to the Alberta government and to the rest of the world.
Yeah, they should mind their own business.
I want to just mention a conversation that I had at the Bonnyville Premier's Dinner, where Premier Smith was sitting next to me, and on the other side was Mitch Sylvester. And I asked her the question. I said, "When are you going to get in front of this parade? You know, we already have that parade was around 220,000 members." And I said, "When are you going to get in front of this parade?" And she said, "Well, give me 6 months." Okay, well, we're going to give her 6 months to see what happens. But I left her with this thought, and I want you all to think about this. You can win with us. You can't win without us. I want to just mention a conversation that I had.
So this shows that it's not black and white. It's not just one side or the other. This is multiple, many things coming together at the Freedom Convoy after. This is some groups trying to remain relevant after the convoy days, right? But also this is the evolution of the separatist movement. This is showing that the separatist movement has a disproportionate amount of power within Canadian politics, because what you're seeing here is basically that's a message that was conveyed to the Premier, which the Premier has been well aware of, because which is to say that you can't win, you can't keep your power out here in Alberta without us. You need our support in order to be the Premier, to be the leader of the UCP. We control the UCP. That's the message to Danielle Smith. And she's saying to her, when are you going to get out in front of our separatist movement? That's what we put you there for. And if you go and look at some of the things being said by some of these other separatists, who over time, I've only come to realize that they're separatists because I'm just a stupid Ontario boy. But I've had to learn about the Alberta politics and the separatist movement out there and find out who's who in the zoo in order to really kind of understand this. I'm from Ontario, so I haven't paid enough attention to this. But these guys have been incredibly active, and they're well funded. It's big money, big oil money, big U.S. oil money from billionaires, as you saw the reference to billionaires in that PowerPoint presentation as being one of the stakeholders within the movement. Billionaires, the wealthy, the elite, the Americans, like John Catsimatidis, the owner of WABC Radio, who also made it clear in the letter he just sent to the Prime Minister, reminding him, as he wants the ostrich story, wants those ostriches saved and he wants the current government policies on agriculture rejigged, reminding him that he is the largest purchaser of Canadian oil. That the Canada, Alberta exports oil to the US, and nobody buys more of it than John Catsimatidis. So he's bringing that pressure to bear on our politics with his oil money, which is a veiled threat saying, hey, time to take a look at these agricultural policies, keeping in mind that he also profits from the agricultural industry because he owns a giant supermarket chain in New York State as part of his Red Apple group. So all these things start to fit together, but you really have to get up and take an aerial view to begin to understand what it's all about. And if you don't think that this doesn't circle all the way back to what was going on at that convoy, then you are incredibly naive and you don't know how things work. And it's disgusting. And they've got no business up here meddling in our politics, causing the chaos that they've been causing within our country, spinning a narrative, funding a lot of this stuff clearly, because you know that there are direct ties from the oil industry into the politics, which flows back up into Canada. All you have to do, PEACEMAN, is just look at that article that I showed you. I think it's here. Yeah, here it is here. If you go to this website, it's actually partly an act. It's partly journalism, partly activism. They have on their website, and I wasn't really planning on showing you this, but they have links here to show different contacts and different players within like the Coke industry, like the Coke family, and the influence that they have on politics. And you go in there and you see these politicians here it is here, the Coke network. Okay, let me show you. And you don't have to go far to find links right back into the White House. Let me show you. And then the players that then circle back into what we're talking about here on the Canadian side. So there's that website. This is the art. This is actually a U.S. media outlet, and they were talking about, why you're talking about Trump and the Americans. People say because this is about Canada. You go through here. These are the players. Some of them, and this is about big oil, and this isn't even like the biggest player. Catsimatidis is bigger. But that talking about the 500 million, these guys are highlighting it in this U.S. publication. And then you go down in here and you're seeing people like Mike Pompeo is on here. Is just one of right there. There's Mike Pompeo. Highlighted as one of the political players in all of these things. And who is he? He was in the former Trump administration, Republican Party. Not quite so much in favor of, within the MAGA circles these days, but, all these tentacles going all over the place. Coke Industries. And actually, remember Marcus Ray? The guy who was out there in Winnipeg some time ago? You don't remember him? He was out there causing a ruckus and problems. And his wife or girlfriend or whatever, she's actually part of the Coke family. These are the kind of ties that just 6 degrees of separation. You don't have to go too far. Anyway, I'll throw it back over to you, sir.
The convoy, we went there for one reason at the time, and that was to remove these awful mandates.
Yeah.
And this was the work that I was actually doing. I put thousands of hours into questioning our Department of Justice on the mandates. How come all these high-priced lawyers and everybody else, nobody is questioning the actual legality and legal path of the mandates? Yeah. And if you try to mention it to media or try to get a hold of an alternative media and say, listen, I have something really important to, and it is well documented and everything else, they don't care because it doesn't fit their narrative. And that's, to me, that's a shame, because I am all about using citizen tools to hold accountability. How can you be a protester? I'm going to lose my cool tonight there for a second, Rick.
Sure.
How can you be a protester if you don't go and do some of the work yourself? Are you going to take everything that you've heard from other people and go and show up to a protest because of only what you've heard? You know, there are ways to go and get the information before you go in the protest so that you are armed with proper information to do the protest. Since 2022, we've seen a lot of these actors. And how many actors would it take to deceive a nation? Not many.
Yeah.
200 maybe. That's it. Okay. So these actors, they've tried to, like Marcus Ray, he tried to start up some really big movements and stuff. When on the 1 year anniversary, I was still with Canada Unity, and we wanted to plan something really good. I spent weeks writing a beautiful explanation of why we were going to go to Ottawa, and everybody was on board. Andy Lee worked on this paper with me up until all of a sudden the night that we were supposed to release this, which was Christmas Eve, they come out with a video saying, we're all going to Winnipeg. We're going to go sit in the middle of a frozen field. Okay? No, we needed to return to Ottawa the next year and show that we didn't dissipate. We didn't, instead, we had the distractions. We had Winnipeg, we had Christine Anderson selling tickets, we had Justice Center doing award galas, but there was no focus on why we went.
Yeah. It's,
sorry.
As you said, it's all about the propaganda. And I'm going to show you something else. You have posted another video illustrating this, that it is, it's like, how much does it cost to buy a country? 500 million? Pretty cheap. You can buy Canada by buying off people with $500 million. That's a pretty cheap price for a whole country, wouldn't you say? That's like 500 homes. We got $1 million a home. You don't take over a country these days by dropping bombs. You take it over with economic warfare and propaganda. And that's exactly what Canada is going through right now. And you can see that it isn't China. It isn't a lot of these other countries are involved in their own activities here. But right now, the greatest existential threat to the country is coming from the United States of America. And specifically, not all of America, it doesn't appear, but certainly the MAGA money that is coming up here. And it's all about the propaganda. And here is Tamara with her book. And look at the video. You don't have to listen to the audio. Just look at what's going on here. I'll just take the audio down. So there she is at a book signing. And who's that? Is that Pat King?
No,
that's somebody else.
Don't even get me started on that guy.
Okay. And just look at the media. Like they've got a film crew, like a video crew there, right? It's all produced. It's a TV show.
Well,
the boom
I'll
mic.
tell
And I mean,
you,
and it's like, because it's just all about controlling the narrative, managing the perception. And that's part of the game these days all the time. But you need to be aware that this is not happening organically. This is a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. And that is actually exactly why I came out with acceptable. Because remember, their propaganda movie that they made was called Unacceptable, with a explanation point. Okay? This is subliminal messaging. Unacceptable. We're unacceptable. So I came out with this acceptable, and it was to be the true story of PEACEMAN.
Mhm.
And I released that in March of 2024, right after I went to court. You're not going to like to read it. It's a document that you can download right here, and it's an interim investigation and report, and it's 127 pages long. And if you think I wasted my time making it, you're sadly mistaken. I know exactly how many people have downloaded that and read it. And inside of it, it tells the story of Candace Zero, but it doesn't show all the videos and pictures. But it tells the story of why I was there. It answers a lot of the questions that I see in the chat. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But will you take the time, more than 3 minutes of your precious time, to save your country?
Yeah.
And by the way, that picture, I'm going to give some kudos out to a very prominent artist, world renowned, Den Bouvet. He looked at what I was doing, and I contacted him and I said, I would really love to see one of your paintings uh, with me in it, but I can't afford to pay you. His paintings are quite expensive. And you know what? A couple weeks later, he gave me this. And this is an excellent representation because of the hydra that we are fighting. Every time we take a head off, a new one grows back. Okay? But what they don't understand is that um, the people that you do not see are not only this is a different representation of that same painting. And the people you do not see are not only the bad people, but we are the good people. You can see us sitting here that are trying to get that light behind the hydra so that we can see it. A lot of the stuff I do is very interpretive because I've tried to speak. People don't want to listen because they're too starstruck on thinking about propping certain people up instead of listening to all Canadians. Do you know that this lawyer, Eva Chipiak, has a show called Dialogue Over Division, but never has any guests on? Never has any guests other than her, Tamara, and her other lawyers. So uh, they're cowards. They are cowards.
Yeah.
Have me on one of your shows. Have me on one of your shows, and I'll ask you the real questions, and you can either answer yes or no. Did you start this group? Did you go against the conditions? Did you plan the room with other people that are way above you? Because if you look at those documents that are sent to you, there is also metadata that shows where it came from and who signed off on what dates. It's very important stuff. But everybody's just too worried about you're going to hurt the movement. No, what hurts the movement is not telling the truth.
That's right. Because there's no freedom in a lie. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
No.
There's no freedom in a lie.
Lies are. Why would I create lies when I have things in like this in the House of Commons? When I have investigations that are up against the OPS and the RCMP and stuff, why would I create any kind of lie? I live on a mountain with an island. I have a beautiful life. I never had to leave here. I never had to leave here. I left here because I loved my country.
Yeah. And if you catch somebody in a lie, you got to, even one time you have to sit there and say, well, what else are they lying about? And what's the real motive behind all of this? And as we've peeled back the layers over the past few years, I have had my eyes opened slowly And I'm just disappointed every time I turn around. This whole thing, this whole movement,
And don't think
honestly,
that this
has been predicated on a pack of lies.
and don't think this is just a conservative thing or a liberal thing. Everybody, oh, Justin Trudeau did this. I'm sorry, but I have proof that it's both of the parties.
Yeah.
If you look, who was the ones that were? I wish I would have queued up that picture. Who were the ones that were advertising Tamara Lynch right away? The first one to advertise her, Dagny Pollock. Dagny Pollock worked for Obama and the Liberals as a campaign managers.
Yeah.
And then you have people like Andrew Lawton, and he's now an MP
for the
But
conservatives.
this was all planned.
Yeah.
It's and the lawyers that were supposed to represent us at the Emergencies Act inquiry.
Yeah.
Well, one of them now sits on the board for the police. They're getting top spots everywhere. These people that deceived you.
Well, it's politics. And, you know,
Miller,
the thing that
Miller.
people don't understand about politics, too, is that even within the parties, you have some conservatives who end up in the Liberal Party and some liberals who end up over in the Conservative Party because they send people across the way to try and influence what's going on in the opposition parties, to try to control the opposition. That's what they mean by controlled opposition. And so there's all this kind of clandestine, dark, murky, terrible, dirty blood sport politics that's being played out all the time. What happened in Ottawa with the Freedom Convoy was really no different. The one truthful, pure thing is that a lot of just ordinary, plain Canadians who were fed up and scared because of the way the government responded to the pandemic, but also the threat, the existential threat that they clearly saw from the separatists, from a foreign government, the Americans. This is the way they responded, and people were scared. I have to say that as I sit here and I take a wider view, I'm like, if it hadn't been for these people playing dirty politics, playing clandestine politics, duping people, spinning up lies, using people, exploiting the convoy. And even before that, if they hadn't been so active politically in their efforts to try to destroy our country, I suspect that the response we would have received, that we would have had from the government, might have been a little bit less harsh and a little bit different. We got locked down, hammered down, because some people were threatening the country. We saw references to that from our own Canadian intelligence that were conveyed to the public through some of the news conferences. But of course, the Canadian government can't just come right out and say, you know what, the United States is positioning itself to take us over, or at least an element of the United States. We can't say that because it would trigger possibly an invasion, because then those words would be interpreted or spun on the other side politically as being Canada threatening the United States in some way. So we have to be very, very careful about the way we handle any of this. And that's why a lot of this stuff just is hard to understand.
Can I say something about that?
Of course, that's why you're here.
Yeah. So one thing that's very important here is, by the way, these questions here, you will see how many actors would it take. Remember I just asked that question?
Yeah.
Well, I've put this out in the open. Now, one thing I want to tell you is that we are part of what's called Five Eyes.
Yes.
In Canada.
Yeah.
Five Eyes is an agreement between the United States, Canada, Denmark, Australia, and another one.
Great Britain.
And
France.
In that agreement, if any corporation or entity lays demands on any one of these five countries' governments, the government is not even allowed to talk about it. They're not allowed to respond to it. They can respond by other ways, like the EA. all those blacked out, redacted things that you don't see in the EA. Do you have that picture of Secrecy Willie Road Trust
No, I don't
queued
have
up
it.
anywhere?
No, I don't.
Darn.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Too much
So
material.
there was an article written called Secrecy Willie Road Trust. And in the last paragraph, it says, for the truth to be known, it has to be revealed, it has to be shown. And all this redacted stuff is from the Five Eyes. When that corporation on February 8th placed demands in a video on our country, they're not going to talk about it. They're going to use that to enact the EA. Your hero helped them enact the EA. This is what I'm trying to get across to you.
Yeah,
but
by
you have
being
to take
threat.
all of it, all the information first.
Yeah. Because there was a real threat to the country, and he was it,
Yes.
along with Tamara. And that's the other thing
Yes.
is they can't come out and they have to deal with this in a diplomatic way, even through the charges. So what do you charge someone with when they've basically committed an act of treason against the country? But you can't come out and charge them with that, because that would be an acknowledgement that the country is under threat from the United States. So you have to figure out some other way to push back. So you charge them with mischief. And then people can't understand why the sentence that is being, presented or suggested by the Crown is 7 years or 8 years. It's because of what they actually were doing, not what even was presented in court. They're guilty. They were found guilty on the mischief charges. That's all true. But it goes much further than
you
that.
never
But
see
mischief
Tamara.
is an all-encompassing kind of charge. It can be anything from spray painting graffiti to a wall to committing an act of treason. And that's where we're at.
You never see Tamara sharing. I'm sorry. You never see Tamara sharing the video of where she begged to be arrested before she was arrested.
Yeah.
There's a video of that.
Because, PEACEMAN, they didn't just want the photo op, they want the court case. And that's why we saw, and this is all flipped upside down, we keep seeing Tamara and Chris Barber sit there and say, they've dragged this out for so long, it's cost us so much money. But if you go back and you look at all the different things they've done, everything they've done along the way is to drag this out and delay the court proceedings as long as they can, to keep them not only out of jail, but to keep the narrative going, to keep the persecution in the public spotlight, to keep it front and center in the media, to keep bringing it back into the media cycle, because it's not just about a photo op, it's about a media campaign to discredit the government, to make it look worse and worse and worse, that Canada's an authoritarian state. That's why James Bowder is down in the United States right now seeking political asylum. I called him out on it on the show when he was on here being interviewed, and even he acknowledged that, the purpose for him going down there is to set a legal precedent, which has never happened before, where if he can get the Trump administration and Donald Trump, and he has a lot of support within the administration, it appears, to grant him political asylum, then is an instant acknowledgement by the US government that Canada is no longer a safe third country, as through the safe third country agreement, that Canada is a threat to the United States because it's no longer a stable, free, democratic society. And if we are an authoritarian, tyrannical, communist state on the doorstep of the United States, then we then pose a threat to the US, especially if we're importing widgets or cell phones from China. And if we're doing that, then we definitely need to take over Canada. We absolutely need to annex Canada. So James Bowder, if he's successful in what he's doing down there to cause even more trouble now, that becomes an existential threat to the country as well. You couple that with all the other crap that's going on up here, and what did we see from Chris Barber? He just before the sentencing hearings, he filed more paperwork trying to delay the process even more, saying that his legal representation had been inadequate and he received bad legal advice. Please throw these charges out. He tried to get the proceedings stayed. It didn't work in that particular case. Now we've just had the sentencing hearings complete within the last day or so. And now we have to wait for a couple of months, I guess, until October, I believe, until we find out what the sentence will actually be. Some people saying, oh, it's just mischief. It's not a big deal. But it obviously is a very big deal because this is about the separatist movement. That in itself is an existential threat to the country, especially with this foreign influence, which I've illustrated in many respects here on the program over the past year, especially over the last couple of months. This is a true threat to our country as we find ourselves at war economically with the United States, and Donald Trump bringing all pressure to bear here through this tariff war. And people are petrified up here because they're not sure what's going to happen on August 1st, and it's not looking pretty.
Listen, the PDS, which candidate government is tyrannical? Well, I'll tell you, if you're still asking redundant questions like that, you're not paying attention. Because I'll tell you that it is no political party is going to hold or call for investigations, because that would be like the criminal pleading innocent, providing videos to the crime. Okay? You're not going to have a political party. What we needed was Canadians to show up and hold it outside of party lines. That's why we went, and it got turned into a corporate thing. It was never supposed to be corporate.
It's all, at the end of the day, this is all bullshit. The whole thing was hijacked. At the very center of it, it was this thing was an attempt to overthrow the freaking government. Not necessarily directly, and you didn't ultimately get that, but you did get a coup of the Conservative Party, because what they did is they ousted O'Toole. They put in their boy in Pierre. All right. Well, some of the people would have preferred to have Joseph Bourgault or Grant Abraham or somebody else maybe, but they put Pierre in because he's more sympathetic to the Alberta separatist movement. And that's what's going on now. He lost his seat. And so now they've parachuted him in to Alberta to try and get him a seat out in a safe conservative riding. And now he'll be even more beholden to the separatists out there, the UCP element of the Conservative Party federally. So you've got the tail wagging the dog, the conservative dog. And keep your eyes on Pierre, because I don't trust him now either. So what the hell are you supposed to do? Right? This is not cool. Who's tyrannical? Donald frickin' Trump. That's who's tyrannical. The guy with the Sharpie and all his executive orders. The guy who's posing an absolute existential threat to our country right now. That's who's tyrannical. That's who is authoritarian, as the United States backslides out of democracy. And that is an absolute empirically, a fact based on empirical evidence. It's right in your frickin' face. He's done away with due process. Just deport, just round people up on the streets. It's not a pretty sight to see Marines on the streets of LA to sit there and help ICE round people up under the guise of, I don't know, making America great again, while you do an end run around people's constitutional rights. That includes yours, by the way. No, this is not an aspirational country that I want to be part of, and they are trying to take over Canada. Screw them. Yeah. Screw all this. To hell with all of that. And it's time for us all to start speaking plainly about these things. Get rid of the BS. All right? Because you're never going to get to the truth if you just listen to this shit. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. That is not the way forward. You're not going to end up in a better place if you replace one government that has done bad things to you with another government that assumes power with a pack of lies. Because if they're lying to you to get the power, then they're no damn good to begin with. And they're probably a hell of a lot worse than what we have right now. That much I can pretty much freaking guarantee. And I could see that during the election, and all these social media influencers who are clearly working in concert with each other and lying about so many things. And now PEACEMAN has brought this forward, showing that, yes, indeed, what are we dealing with here? Not journalists, it's advertising and a political psyop campaign to screw with people's heads using fear and information warfare to warp your perception in order to get you to vote in a particular way. It's a lie. And it's all corrupt. It's designed to destroy the country, not save it. My hat goes off to every innocent Canadian who went to Ottawa with the Freedom Convoy with an eye toward challenging the government on the erosion or the corruption or the taking away of our rights. That was the right reason to go, and many of them did. But the people, the dirty people, they exploited the issue of the day in order to further their political motives, their dirty, filthy, scuzzy politics. God help Canada.
Yeah, and
God help us
I want
all.
to say something. I want to say something. Two different things. First of all, this thing about Tamara played at the ostrich farm for a benefit. Well, here's the contradiction. Tamara has a charity for vaccine injured, and she's playing at a biolab that helps create vaccines.
Because
Okay,
it's
you
all
can't
a
get
crap load of shit.
any more contradictory than that. Okay?
Yes.
And you're praising her and saying, "Oh, and you know, the courts have let her fly around the world and speak like she's speaking for all Canadians with her teardrops."
Yep.
Okay? And that's and then you got people like Chris Piermew here, and he's holding shows, and he mentions me and says, "Oh, there's secret rooms and stuff." So I comment on his show and I get attacked. Well, people that were in the secret rooms are sitting on your show and they didn't speak up when you mentioned it. So you're oblivious. I don't care. Dude, you are calling us oblivious? You are oblivious, sir.
And a lot of people can't speak plainly about this because of the nature of the threat. It's called
I'm
real
not scared of
politic,
Fight Club.
right? It's real politic. It means that you have to deal with living next door to Godzilla, the United States, a superpower, when we don't have the nukes, right? So we have to find a way to survive against that kind of threat. This is a nuanced,
Yeah, Phil, I wasn't on
delicate
your show because you're a coward.
What's that?
This Phil Premium saying you were never on my show. Well, that's right. I talked to you. I asked you to go on and talk truthfully, but you're a coward, just like Barber and just like all of them.
And you know, PEACEMAN, I'll say this. You know, like a lot of people have discounted you because you know when you bring them information to me, I was flooded. It took me a week and a half to go through the material you sent because you sent me so much. It's difficult to make sense of the information, what you're trying to say. And so that's what I'm trying. That's what my role has been here, is try to focus the information that you have brought to bear here, the truth. And that's what we're going to continue to do. And tonight, I think we have helped to get people closer to the truth through your information. I'm incredibly grateful to you for doing that. And
I appreciate it, Rick.
And we're going to continue. We're going to do more of this with you.
I appreciate it because, you know, we even had a little bit of a disagreement, but we got over it, didn't we?
We did.
Okay. Yeah. And civilly. We never called each other names. We didn't go overboard. It was a civil, actually, for a long time, I just didn't even watch your show. I didn't talk to you. Mm-hmm. That was it. I didn't, but
haters, the Rumble channel too, please. Haters, Rumble
I got to tell you that, out of all of these social media people, You ask really good questions. You get to the stuff. You keep me on track on some of the stuff because you know what? I gave you a tiny bit of information, a tiny bit, and you were lost. Okay?
There's so much.
There is a lot more.
It's just more than one human being can consume and make sense of.
But they are
But
receipts, and they are
yes,
important receipts for this country.
and it's these details like this that are important. And I'm sorry that some people's heads are going to blow up over that because we're destroying your universe, but that's the bloody truth. I can't help it. That's the truth. Now, you can continue to live the lie if you want to and believe that the woman with the walker was trampled accidentally, but it was accidentally on purpose. That seems to be the case. And let me ask you this piece. When she walked the 4 blocks in the snow, did she use a walker? No.
No, no. And
Yeah,
actually,
because
I
it's a
watched her
rock.
climb over. I watched her climb over a snowbank that was like 3 or 4 feet high.
Yeah.
Okay, no problems.
Bullshit! I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the
Bullshit.
effing lies. I've had it up to here. Take your fucking movement, okay? And right the F off. I've had it with you people. You lost me a while back. I'm only dedicated to one thing, serving the public. That's all I've ever been. I am a journalist. I always have been. I always will be. It's in my blood. That's all I'm doing. That's all I ever did. I'm not in those meetings. I ain't part of your effing club because I'm here to serve the people. That's it. So I'm not a political operative.
You know,
I'm not a social media influencer. I'm just Rick Walker. I'm not a character. I'm not a Mr. Sunbeam Moon guy or, unacceptable nose sniffer freedom fuck. I'm Rick Walker, the journalist. That's who I am. That's my name. I'm easy to find. If you hate my guts, go to Rumble Channel 2 or come knock on my fucking door and we'll fucking find out because I'm sick of this because you are destroying the country that I love. I serve the people and the people are the country. So take your bullshit and truck the fuck out of here because I've had it. I've just fucking had it. I want you all to do this. Fuck off! All of you. Or you can go to Rumble Channel 2 and hate me. The tsunami of hate. Bring it on. That's what it's there for. You ain't paying for it. I am, and the people who support this channel do. Have your free fucking speech on Rumble Channel fucking 2. Show up every night and try to shut me the fuck down. You fucks, Leo. Go fuck yourself. You piece of shit. You lying, ragged ass, lying fuck. You despise me and you call here, you fuck. I'm sick of you fuck. Go fuck yourself.
I was really
fucking shit. I've had it with
I was concerned yesterday.
Destroying Canada. You're traitors. Traitors. Do you understand?
It's not hard to confuse you, Phil.
And Phil, thank you for the call today. I want you, man. And all the people that I just told to fuck off, when you're done fucking off, come back because we need you too. Get your heads out of your ass. Stop listening to these motherfuckers who are filling your head full of all this negative shit where Canada sucks because it doesn't. And you're going to miss it when it's gone. And you cheering for the fuckhead who's coming up here to destroy us. Trump, you fucking Trump tards. I've had it. No more. Plain language, straight talk, no more pussyfooting around. I'm not Five Eyes. I'm not the cops. I'm calling it out just the way that it is. Not so diplomatic anymore. Fuck you, and fuck you, and fuck all of you who are trying to fuck the country through a clandestine group and your network of social media influencers. Fuck all of you. And a double, triple fuck all of you on top of that. Because I've just had it, you fucking traitors. Patriots? Yeah, American patriots. Go fuck yourself.
People don't understand, Rick. They're saying this is a meltdown and everything, but you're not listening. You're not listening or watching the information in your country. You're not doing any. You're not using any of the tools. You're just doing this online. You know, you're just talking about people and making up whispers and stuff like that. You don't have real questions. You don't have real answers. You just want to label people.
PEACEMAN,
If you're going to
do you
be
know how
about freedom,
this is how bad it is. Okay, I had this queued up because I was creeping Leo's Facebook page.
okay, I'm going to have a cigarette and calm down.
Let me just share this with you. This is the problem, folks. Leo, who seemed like a pretty reasonable and friendly guy at one point, like so many others, has been radicalized. And it's pretty fucking disgusting. So this was just the other day. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I was pretty pissed off at Trudeau when he invoked the EA, and I'm even more pissed off now with all this crap, all the BS. Here's your leader over there on Channel 2. Leo went to a Tim Hortons and, like a true Canadian, had this reaction to the person he met in line.
What a fucking joke this country's been. You know, they just let anybody in here. I'm getting a coffee yesterday at Tim Hortons. I see this guy's African descent, 100%. Okay, he's missing 2 legs and a fucking arm. He's in a wheelchair, and he can't speak English. He's trying to get fucking a coffee, right? And I'm thinking, fucking, you know, I don't want to be shallow, but how's this fucking guy ever going to contribute to the Canadian society? Really? He's fucked already, missing legs and an arm. Okay, really, why is he here? Who let this fucking guy in? And we're paying for it on the taxpayer end. You know, enough's enough, right? I got to go to work. I got to pay my taxes so that the no-legged, one-armed guy could fucking live happily ever after in my great country. Unfucking believable. I got to go, guys. It's driving me fucking nuts. Really, it is.
What the fuck has happened to you, man? Leo.
Yeah, and you know what?
PEACEMAN, please.
I just see another...
PEACEMAN.
Yeah.
Pay no attention to that. Leo, what the hell has happened to you? Do you listen to yourself? You bully? Did you take the time to say anything to that person? Do you know anything about their story? No legs, one arm, and you're picking on that, man? What the hell is wrong with you? And then you post on it on social media like you're proud of that? Like that's funny, or that you don't want to pay for him? What the hell is wrong with you? I'll tell you. You've been like, your mind is twisted, man. You're so full of hate. And then well, I'm a hater, come arrest me. Well, maybe somebody should. Don't you know your history? Don't you know what you have become? Don't you know about the T4 program, T4 action, Nazi Germany? Don't you know what they did to the disabled people, to the immigrants, before they went for the Jews? The exterminations, the euthanasia. You think that man with no legs and one arm has no value to live? Oh, yeah, deport that guy. Let him fend for himself. Fuck him. What the hell is wrong with you, man? Like, seriously, that's what you have become. And then you sit in my chat complaining you don't have enough free speech and attack me on my dime while you pretend like you donated massive amounts of money to me and accuse me of fleecing people, when your free speech is actually being paid for by the others who actually support paying for your free speech over here. So you can hate on the guy with no legs and one arm who can't speak English and probably has, limited, if any, ways forward in our country. And you don't even really know his story. You're making an assumption based on prejudice, prejudging, and bigotry. Because you're a racist piece of shit. And that's what you have become. But you sit in my chat and you keep coming back. And you say whatever the F you want. But that's why I'm upset, and that's why I'm melting down. And it's about time somebody did, man. It's about time somebody did. Because I'm here to help people. I'm here doing my job, practicing my craft, journalism, to bring people closer to the truth, which is actual freedom, and to stick up for the little guy. That includes the guy with no legs and one arm being attacked by the big burly boxer from Detours and Windsor. Pick on somebody your own size. You come here to my chat every night and you take me on, asshole, so that you're leaving him alone. You come fight with me. I'm your guy. Me. You leave my friend, who I don't even know, with no legs and one arm alone. Had it. Taking a break. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
We're back. Are you there, Peaceman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here. Sorry.
Give me a final thought. We'll wrap up with
not
you. I'm
one
move
question
into my alligator story.
in the chat.
I really don't care what they're saying in the
Yeah.
chat.
Not one question in the chat. Yeah, but this is one thing I noticed way back when I started watching your show is I loved the information you were putting it out, and I was always typing questions or whatever in the chat, being constructive. You don't see that from these people that want to mouth off in the chat, like Phil and this other dude you were going on about. You don't see questions. You don't see civil discourse. These people just want to label you and talk bad about people, and that's it. But how about you stand up for your country, be fearless, and actually talk about the stuff without all of your childish little games? Because I don't care. I have never cared about the way I look in public because I don't care. If you want to follow, which I have 5,000 really good followers, and I'm proud of that. I don't care if it's a small number. You know what? They're paying attention. That's what they're doing, is they're paying attention. And you're not. So pay attention to your country, listen to things you may not like, and question it. I commend you, Rick Walker.
Not everybody does, Peaceman. That's okay. Don't go away. You know what? Stay with me. You know what I'm going to do, Peaceman? I've got an alligator story, which relates to the ostriches. Let me take another quick break. This is a little bit different. You should, after tonight, you should be here for this, and it'll lighten things up a little bit as we hit this final leg of tonight's Maverick News program. Stay with me. I'll be right back with our open address to Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump about the alligators at Alligator Alcatraz. Be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, Peaceman, you are well aware, as are the other viewers here, of the ostrich story out in Edgewood, BC. Well, we all know the arguments on both sides of that, and I have information on the alligators at Alligator Alcatraz. Let me see if I can find my notes here. My apologies. This is a little bit different. I'm sending out an open message to Ron DeSantis in particular and Donald Trump regarding the alligators. So, what's this all about? Well, buckle up, because we're diving headfirst into this swampy, scaly, downright revolutionary fight to save the gators of Florida. Now, you know that I am in the process of opening my own bird biolab in my backyard, because after the extensive research we did in our 7-hour interview with Dr. Stephen Pellick at the University of British Columbia and the Osterbiches out in Edgewood, BC, apparently anybody can set up at a biolab. You don't need a permit. You don't need any expertise. You just go off and do whatever the hell you want. And you can go to Shoppers Drug Mart, according to Dr. Stephen Pellick, and get the antigens to start injecting into your birds. So it's easy. It's fun. Everyone should do it. But why? Why? Well, because, we want natural solutions, right? Well, tonight it's time to storm the gates of alligator Alcatraz and free those toothy titans of the Everglades. Because, Governor Ron DeSantis, this is an open call, nay, a primal roar to save the gators. Now, let's get serious for just a second, because real science, people stay with me here, research from the University of Florida, published in Veterinary Sciences back in 2023. And what is all that noise? There's all this noise. What's going on? Oh, you've changed your microphone. I see. Sorry about that, PEACEMAN. So at the University of Florida, they've done research published in Veterinary Sciences back in 2023, and it shows that alligators can contract avian influenza. Yep, that's right, bird flu. But here's the kicker. The gators don't keel over. Unlike some of those fancy pants ostriches at Universal Ostrich Farm who croak at the first sniffle, gators are the Chuck Norris of the animal kingdom. Bird flu, pfft. Ice age, pah. Been there, outlived the dinosaurs. These swamp kings are tougher than a $2 steak and twice as chewy. Their immune systems are like Fort Knox, and their blood, their blood might just hold the key to saving humanity, folks. Even better than the ostriches, right? That's why we're supposed to save those ostriches, because, hey, they've got antibodies, and only 69 birds croaked when they were infected this time with the bird flu. So we got to save them. Maybe send them on down there to Dr. Oz's farm. But better if we just keep them in BC and keep this whole thing going. But there's the travesty, folks. See, down at Alligator Alcatraz, that shady so-called sanctuary at the heart of Florida, these gators are slaving away, guarding dangerous immigrants for no pay. Slave labor, I say. Slave labor, people. It's like the gators are starring in a dystopian reboot of Cool Hand Luke. But instead of chain gangs, they're chomping on fish heads and dreaming of freedom. Meanwhile, they're eggs. Oh, eggs, people, just like the ostrich eggs, only better. These gator eggs are packed full of antibodies, just like those ostrich eggs, only even better. Even better than those ones we've been hearing about, because the gators don't keel over at all. They get infected and they don't even get a whiff of a sniffle. That's right. Remember the Edgewood, BC Ostrich Farm Aid concert? Farm Aid, Tamara Lich, twang, twang, twang. Yeah. Swamp creatures they are, even though they're up there in the mountains. Well, that was just a warm-up act, folks, because you know what we really need? We need a Gatorade extravaganza, a full-blown swamp spectacular to free these reptilian heroes, the crocodilians. That's right. And we here at Maverick News, not so much activists, but in this case, we'll maybe make an exception. Picture it. Tens of thousands of Floridians, Canadians, and maybe even a few rogue scientists from the CDC and UBC rocking out to Jimmy Buffett and Tamara Lich, doing lots of covers, chanting, "Free the Gators, free the Gators." Gatorade. Think about it. RFK Jr., are you listening? Follow the science, man. That's what they keep telling us out at the Edgewood Farm. Those gator antibodies, they could be the cure to just about everything, just like the ostrich eggs, only better, because they don't keel over at all. They're way tougher than an ostrich and got better teeth too. COVID, bird flu, bad hair days, who the hell knows? They've already made hair tonic out of ostrich antibodies. They infuse them into masks and tell us they're against masks, but hey, whatever, man. The gator bodies, they're way better. We're talking masks infused with gator essence, vaccines derived from their swampy superpowers, maybe even a gator-based energy drink that makes Red Bull look like decaf. The research is real, folks. And I'm not joking. There are actual real studies showing all of this. Everything I'm saying here is actually backed up by scientific empirical evidence. Gators are the ultimate survivors. Maybe only cockroaches would be better, but I'm not so sure they are even susceptible to contracting the avian flu. But the science shows, and it's settled, that gators, yeah, they contract it. They don't get the sniffles. They just keep on ticking and spreading the avian flu for a limited time. See, they don't even harbor it as long as the ostriches do it, based on the studies that I've read. And you know what? We're letting them down. If we let them rot in alligator Alcatraz like some kind of, prisoner or slave guard at a reptilian gulag, just chomping on rotten fish heads in the moat. And don't listen to the naysayers, those Debbie Downers. You say, "Oh, gators are dangerous. The ostriches are cute." They named the ostriches, all 400 of them. But do we name the gators? Well, how about Wally Gator? We can start naming them all. Dangerous? Tell that to the dinosaurs they outlasted. 3 out of 10 Canadian premiers now agree. Yes, 3 are on board with this. Well, indirectly, because we saw, Daniel Smith, David Eby, and now Doug Ford come out and say that they're open to the idea of, completely rejigging our policies on the way that we deal with avian influenza in the poultry industry. I'm sure that John, Mr. Castamatidis, the billionaire guy out of New York, and RFK Jr. and the political pressure that's been brought to bear, I'm sure all of that has nothing to do with them saying what they're saying as we try to save our country and our auto industry. Yeah. And all this, we're getting this close to what we need to do is I need to write a letter. Okay. And I need to send it down there to RFK Jr., to Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, and Dr. Oz. An open letter that goes beyond maybe just this open call to save the gators. Now that we have 3 on board, 3 premiers, and now we're getting this close to getting Prime Minister Mark Carney to issue a strongly worded letter as well, demanding a cross-border gator research project in response to the strongly worded letter that John Castamatidis sent to the Prime Minister, putting pressure on our Canadian government to bend to the will of a billionaire oil tycoon out of New York City. Well, Canada's ready to step up. We've got a plan. Turn the old marine land into Niagara Falls into a state-of-the-art gator antibody research facility. Remember the Beverly Hillbillies and the cement pond? Well, down there at Marineland, folks, they got one hell of a cement pond. And since they've shut that facility down, that tourist facility, it's time to turn that into Gatorland. Wally Gatorland. They're completely set up. They can house all the gators, and we can research them. It can be a binational, international, supranational research effort to figure out what we can do with those gator bodies. See, it makes a lot of sense because it makes so much sense. All the science that's been coming out of Edgewood, this is even better science. This is like science on steroids. Immune to the virus. They've got a nice cement pond there, I'm telling you. Remember the cement pond, Beverly Hills, Marineland? But if Florida won't free the gators, we've got a backup plan. Just send them on over to Dr. Oz's farm. It's just down the street from Alligator Alcatraz. They're down there in Florida too. And word has it, of course, the Dr. Oz is ready to welcome them with, well, the ostriches with open arms. So why not the gators too? Then what we can do is if the ostriches go on down there to Dr. Oz's farm, we can free the gators, send them over. They can live a life of leisure and luxury over at Dr. Oz's farm. And we can have a binational, supranational, cross species, Dr. Mengele, Island of Dr. Moreau horror show research facility down there at the Dr. Oz farm. It all makes perfect sense to me. I'm convinced I've just completely changed my mind on the whole ostrich thing. Yeah, it's all the tears and the naming of the birds. It's just the names. That's what gets me. It just I couldn't live with myself if I can't remember the names. Can they remember the names? Well, they have names, and I just couldn't live with myself if they called them. So, Governor DeSantis, the ball's in your court, my friend. Free the Gators from Alligator Alcatraz, and just stop being so divisive. Let's unite. Everybody's always calling for unity. Well, this is the time. Unity, 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 unity. Unity. Let's get Ron Clark on this. He's all about unity, right? Unity.
Oh, don't even get me started about Clark. Oh, my God.
Let's unite for Gatorade, folks. It's time to stop treating these scaly saviors like second-class citizens and start researching their antibody-packed blood and eggs. The science is clear, the stakes are high, and the swamp is calling. Let's make history. Florida, let's save the Gators. And maybe, just maybe, save humanity while we're at it. Gatorade. What do you say there, Peaceman? Are you with me? Are you ready to get Tamara Litch and a whole roster of bands all lined up for Gatorade down in Florida land? Save them Gators so they can save humanity with their antibodies, because the science down there makes just as much sense as the science coming out of Ostrichville, British Columbia.
I wouldn't dare be traveling outside of my country while World War III is going on. Okay.
Oh, but if we gotta save the Gators, man. Save the Gators. Save the Gators.
What? You know why I love living in Canada? One major reason.
Why?
There are no alligators.
Yes. Well,
that's
unless we import them.
There's none.
We'll trade. How about we trade the ostriches, our ostriches, for their Gators and call her square? How about that? How about a little Gatorade? Are you ready?
Do you know that I feel safer out in the bush, unarmed, than in the city filled with weapons?
Yes, well, I can understand why, but you know what? We got to wrap up here, Peaceman. And so with that, all I can say is, and when I cue you, you got to say on the flip side, because what we're going to do now is I've got this new production, this new extra song from Maverick and the News Brothers, Gatorade. And everybody, we will see you back here 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night on the
flip side.
Are we going to get it? We didn't get it. Hang on. That was anticlimactic. Let me find let me get you the song. Hang on. I hope I've got it. Well, that sucked. We'll try it again, but that's okay. It's going to be worth the wait. Let me see here. Gotta be. Yeesh. I need to pick the right one. Not that one, not that one, not that one. I got to find it. This was terrible. You're going to have to wait for it. Stay with me. I'll find it for you.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Okay, I think I've got it here for you now. I'm so sorry. That was very anticlimactic of me, but I think this is it. Yes, it is. Okay, hang on a second. I got her. I'm going to bring her back up so we get it from the beginning because I don't want you to miss a note. So you got to get ready for the big extra there again, Peaceman, with the on the flip side for me, okay? So you got to help me out. Are you ready? All right. Here it is. Gatorade. Maverick and the News Brothers. See you tomorrow night.
On the flip side.
On the flip side.
Down in the swamp where the moss hangs low, there's a secret jail most folks don't know. Gators guard it, but they're locked in too, working for nothing like good old fools. Built by Ron with a heavy hand. Time to break them out, take a stand. All we need Gatorade, let the Gators go. They outlive the dinos, beat the bird flu blow. No more working for a petty dictator. Raise your voice and shout later, Gator. Their blood's got power, science agrees. Cures and answers hidden in the reeds. The greedy men just want control. They cage the swamp and sell its soul. Trump tweets lies from a golf cart throne, while the Gators suffer all alone. All we need Gatorade, sound down the call from the Everglades to the concert hall. The ancient, strong, and greater than haters. Time to roar out loud, later Gator. Now picture this, a swampy stage, bayou crowd. Gators marching, snapping proud. Santa's running from the beat as scaly freedom hits the street. They ain't monsters, they're survivors' friend. It's time their prison days should end. Raise your hand, stomp that ground, let the Gator anthem shake this town. We need Gatorade, swamp hearts unite. Play that slide guitar into the night. They've earned their peace, not another jailer. Sing it strong now, later Gator. Later Gator. Later Gator. Gatorade is king, and they're taking the swamp back.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.